Marcus Aurelius warned, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." The next few minutes are your blueprint to being that man. Watch to the end, because by the final chapter you'll hold 7 field-tested Stoic habits that trigger instant, visceral attraction, habits understood by barely 1% of men. While you absorb each lesson, tap like, slam subscribe, share your own story in the comments, and commit to staying until the last word. Mastery begins the moment you decide not to look away. Chapter 1. Having a plan. A man without a plan drifts like an untethered ship, fascinating no one and inspiring even less. He reacts instead of leads, absorbs noise instead of broadcasting signal. The Stoics saw every sunrise as a sacred invitation to disciplined, strategic living. They didn't stumble into virtue, they engineered it. Their days were designed like campaigns, each hour assigned its mission, each choice aligned with a vision. Imagine waking before dawn, not to scroll or snooze, but to blueprint your next 12 hours with precision. The revenue goal you'll conquer before noon, the intense workout you'll crush by 4, the message to a mentor that pushes your ambition 1 tier higher. That deliberate outline sets the tempo. It doesn't just move the day forward, it moves you forward. Women sense that level of clarity the way sailors navigate by the North Star. It orients them. There's a gravitational force in a man who knows where he's going and why. That energy isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. Planning protects your inner world from the entropy of modern life, the late-night texts from people who drain your purpose, distractions that shred your focus, impulsive purchases that mortgage your future. A plan isn't just logistics, it's armor. It filters decisions through long-term vision, converting chaos into clarity. When you consistently keep promises to yourself, subtle transformations take root. Your posture adjusts without effort, your voice lowers in frequency, your gaze lingers without anxiety. Your presence announces silent authority. A well-formed plan proves one fundamental thing: you are leading your own life. And leadership, in any form, draws people in. Partners feel safer. Colleagues feel steadier. Even strangers sense you're a man they can trust in a storm. Setbacks? They lose power when viewed through the lens of strategy. You don't spiral, you recalibrate. You revise the mission, never abandon the war. That kind of resilience isn't just admirable, it's rare. At dinner, you don't offer vague complaints or forgettable stories. You recount specific victories, outline tomorrow's objectives, and do so with a calm, grounded tone. That steadiness, a blend of vision and execution, is magnetic. It signals high value without a word of self-promotion. More than just productivity, having a plan enhances your emotional and social intelligence. With your essentials handled, your mind is free to engage, really engage. You listen better. You notice when someone's tone shifts mid-sentence. You catch details others miss. You're more humorous, more empathetic, more creatively spontaneous. Planning doesn't box you in, it frees you. It clears bandwidth for connection. The Stoics wrote their intentions on wax tablets each morning, scripting the soul before facing the day. You might use a legal pad, a journal, or a project dashboard, but the principle is the same: a written plan creates momentum. Visible rituals matter. When your partner sees your bullet journal next to the bed, when your team notices the color-coded blocks on your calendar, it tells a quiet story. This man doesn't wait to see how life unfolds, he builds it. He architects it. He earns results through intention. Confidence doesn't fall from the sky. It grows from structure. Declare your plan. At 6 I'll be on the trail running sprints. By 9, I'll have sent the client proposal. By noon, I'll be locked into deep work. Say it not for show, but from belief. You radiate certainty. And certainty, especially the grounded, earned kind is irresistibly attractive. Keep refining your system until every hour has meaning. Let your life be a composition, not a reaction. Because once every minute is connected to purpose, people feel it. They lean in. They follow. And you begin to understand the quiet power of men who don't just survive a day, they command it. Chapter 2. Being Curious. Stoic giants roamed vast empires, gathering insights as if collecting rare coins, each perspective another shard of truth to refine their character. They believed the examined life was not just noble, but necessary. Curiosity, to them, wasn't shallow interest, it was the soul's way of reaching outward, of piercing illusion and stepping into deeper understanding. In today's world, curiosity is your intellectual fingerprint, the trait that elevates a man from charming to unforgettable. True curiosity is not small talk, it is a rigorous, respectful excavation of the world inside another person. Picture yourself on a first date asking, "What hard lesson shaped you most in the last year?" instead of the flat, forgettable "So, what do you do?" The emotional frequency of the conversation shifts immediately. You're no longer exchanging surface pleasantries, you're soul mapping. When you listen with genuine intent, not to respond, but to decode, you offer a rare gift, the experience of being profoundly seen. That kind of attention leaves fingerprints on memory. Neuroscience confirms this. When someone feels heard on a deep level, their brain releases dopamine, oxytocin, and other bonding chemicals. They begin to associate your presence with emotional safety and mental pleasure. You become a haven in a world full of distractions and shallow chatter. That alone creates magnetic pull. Curiosity signals cognitive flexibility. It says, "I don't need to be right, I need to understand." This agility is not just intellectual, it's social survival. The ability to pivot, to challenge gently, to adapt your view in light of new data is a high marker of both intelligence and emotional maturity. In a meeting, your questions unearth blind spots others overlook. You question assumed truths, uncovering hidden variables, and suddenly, the conversation orbits your insight. People begin to rely on your lens to see clearly. In friendship, curiosity shows up as memory and continuity. You recall that a friend's sister is in medical residency, or that someone's grandfather once fled a war-torn country. You don't just store facts, you weave them into future conversations. It proves that your interest is genuine, not just socially transactional. You become the man who notices. And in a world starving for significance, that kind of attention feels sacred. Curiosity also transforms conflict. Instead of attacking a person's position, you ask, "What led you to that belief?" You probe not to corner, but to comprehend. This approach disarms defensiveness. Arguments become joint investigations, not zero-sum battles. People walk away thinking, "I feel smarter around him," or "He gets me." And that impression lingers longer than charm ever could. Make curiosity your daily ritual. Ask the barista what book changed her life. Research a colleague's hometown before lunch and casually mention a landmark. Learn a new phrase in a foreign language each night and use it with a stranger the next day. These aren't gimmicks. They are practices, muscle building for the mind and heart. The more curious you are, the more ammunition you bring to every conversation. You prevent stagnation, escape the orbit of cliché, and keep your inner world in constant expansion. The Stoics called this process kiosis, the unfolding alignment between self and the universe through familiarity. It's the active effort to understand more so you can live more harmoniously. When you embody this pursuit, it shows. Your eyes spark with discovery. Your presence hums with possibility. You become a conduit of interest, a man through whom wonder flows. And that wonder is contagious. Curiosity ignites minds, builds trust, inspires connection, and opens doors that effort alone cannot. A curious man is never boring, never static. He radiates life. And in the quiet spaces between questions, he invites others to feel alive, too. Chapter 3. Having Hobbies. Stoic leaders balance statecraft with archery, philosophy with wrestling, demonstrating that mastery of life isn't singular, it's layered. Marcus Aurelius could command armies and still reflect on the rhythm of nature. This wasn't indulgence. It was training the soul through variety. Hobbies aren't distractions, they're disciplines in disguise. They forge depth, add dimension, and prove that your identity doesn't hinge solely on productivity or profit. In a world obsessed with metrics, titles, salaries, likes, hobbies are one of the few expressions of self-driven by intrinsic motivation. Picture a man spending his Saturday mornings restoring a vintage motorcycle. The smell of oil, the metal's cold defiance, the meditative rhythm of torque and polish, the engine finally roaring at dusk. That narrative beats a resume bullet point every time. It speaks of patience, craftsmanship, and devotion with no external reward. These are deeply attractive traits, especially in men, because they signal self-governance. Hobbies declare, I can dedicate myself, even when no one's watching. And discipline, pursued voluntarily, is one of the most magnetic forms of masculine energy. Hobbies also fracture the illusion of flat identity. They reveal layers. You're not just the guy in finance, you're also a weekend ceramicist, a salsa dancer, a bonsai enthusiast. You escape the trap of one-dimensionality, which is the death of charisma. You bring more than job talk to the dinner table. You bring vivid anecdotes of falling off a boulder wall, of the first time you made sourdough rise, of a midnight jam session with strangers who became friends. These moments shape your emotional palette and your social presence. The attractive man is a storyteller, and hobbies continually refill his reservoir of stories. Physiologically, engaging deeply in a craft reduces cortisol, boosts endorphins, and resets the nervous system. You begin to carry an aura, calm, grounded, quietly focused, that others feel without knowing why. Walk into a room after sculpting for 2 hours and you carry a different energy than someone who's just scrolled endlessly. That aura is rare, and it draws people in. Hobbies can be physical, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, trail running, or intellectual, classical guitar theory, Japanese poetry. The key is consistency and growth. Show up bruised, humbled, yet eager to improve. This attitude doesn't just develop skill, it signals emotional resilience. You're the kind of man who doesn't fear failure, he engages it until it yields. You learn to laugh at your missteps, ask for help, and try again. Humility and grit, developed over time, become quietly visible in your demeanor. Hobbies also act as bridges into new cultures, into new social circles, into romantic novelty. They inject unpredictability into relationships. One evening you're experimenting with Thai recipes because she's curious about your cooking class. Another weekend, she's cheering you on at an amateur boxing match under the raw glow of gym lights. These shared adventures are more than diversions, they're bonding catalysts. Studies confirm that couples who learn new skills together trigger higher oxytocin levels, the same chemical that fuels attachment and intimacy. It's not just about having fun, it's about deepening emotional resonance. Moreover, your hobbies become crucibles for character refinement. Missing a chord in front of a small audience, dropping a clay mug minutes before it was finished, getting checkmated in 4 moves, these aren't failures. They're rehearsals for composure. How you recover, the grace with which you absorb imperfection, reveals more than perfection ever could. People are watching, not just your performance, but your poise under pressure. The Stoics champion virtue, the pursuit of excellence in every sphere of human experience. They believed that a man should engage the world fully, body, mind, spirit. Practicing hobbies through this lens becomes more than recreation, it becomes a declaration. You're not idle. You're in motion. Always refining, always discovering. You broadcast quiet confidence, you are self-sufficient, self-directed, and therefore endlessly intriguing. Attraction, after all, rarely springs from loud declarations. It emerges from subtle cues, unmistakable signs of a life deeply and curiously lived. A man with hobbies is a man with orbit. People want to step into his world not because he demands it, but because he's built something beautiful and absorbing within it. In a noisy, distracted world, depth is magnetism. And hobbies are its forge. Chapter 4. Giving genuine compliments. Authentic praise is both a weapon and a shield, weapon because it penetrates emotional armor, shield because it guards the giver from corrosive envy. The Stoics trained their speech to embody truth and charity in equal measure, understanding that language doesn't merely describe reality, it shapes it. Words are sculpting tools, and compliments are among the most precise chisels available. A genuine compliment is not casual flattery. It aims directly at effort, not ego. Say to a colleague, your research on supply chain bottlenecks saved the entire project's timeline, and watch as her shoulders straighten and her presence becomes more grounded. That's the power of being seen, not just noticed, but understood. Specificity is everything. Precision proves sincerity. Compliments that land well are those rooted in observation. Nice job is noise. But your choice to start that presentation with a story pulled the whole room in is music. To deliver such a statement, you had to pay attention to notice the nuanced brushstroke in a painting, the quiet leadership in a chaotic meeting, or the thoughtful pause before a friend made a difficult decision. This type of attention suggests elevated social awareness. And only those secure in their own worth are capable of fully acknowledging the excellence of others without needing to compete. Compliments, when delivered with grace, reframe entire social environments. In a room humming with critique or indifference, one well-timed, sincere remark can shift the collective tone. People exhale. Tension drains. You become the emotional thermostat everyone subconsciously gravitates toward. Praise is emotional intelligence in action, and those who wield it wisely rise in influence. Timing matters. Deliver it promptly, ideally in the presence of others. Public recognition amplifies the impact. It signals that you're not just generous privately, but confident enough to uplift openly. Science reinforces what ancient wisdom intuited. Social recognition triggers serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine, all chemicals that prime the brain for warmth, openness, and trust. The person you praise will remember how they felt around you, not just what you said. Over time, your presence becomes linked with emotional elevation. People start to associate being in your company with feeling capable, appreciated, and valued. That is a powerful kind of magnetism, not built on dominance, but on resonance. But like any currency, praise loses power if overissued or counterfeit. False compliments corrode trust. People sense when praise is performative or manipulative. The antidote is restraint, only speak when there's something truly worth honoring. Even better, look for the moments others ignore. The quiet contributions, the invisible labor, the internal wins that aren't yet celebrated. Call those into light. Say it plainly, without flourish, I noticed you stayed late all week to handle that migration. It didn't go unseen. That kind of recognition is rare, and people crave it more than they admit. This practice does more than just uplift individuals. It builds connective tissue. The Stoic concept of sympathia, the belief in a shared human soul, urges us to strengthen bonds within the greater whole. Every sincere compliment is a thread of goodwill. Enough threads, and you begin to weave a net of trust, respect, an opportunity that can catch you when needed. The people you've lifted are often the ones who later open doors, make introductions, or offer support when you least expect it. In romantic contexts, compliments reveal priorities. Don't default to appearances. Anyone can admire symmetry. Instead, compliment substance. Your discipline to train every morning shows serious mental strength, or moving to a new country alone takes real courage. You're not merely handing out affirmations, you're validating their chosen identity. That's rare, and it builds intimacy faster than any surface praise ever could. People feel emotionally safe with those who see them not just as they are, but as they hope to be seen. Through deliberate repetition, you'll refine your delivery. Your compliments will gain cadence, clarity, and control. Tone will match intent. Timing will feel effortless. Eventually, your words will land like well-placed instruments in a symphony, precise, moving, and memorable. And in that moment, both the receiver and the speaker are elevated. That's the power of a well-spoken truth. It blesses twice. Chapter 5. Speaking positively about others. Negativity is a cheap currency. It circulates easily, and anyone can afford to spend it. Gossip requires no discipline, no character, and no vision. The Stoic asserts true value by resisting its pull. Think of Cato, the Roman moralist, walking calmly past a tide of political rumors without pause, his silence more dignified than any shouted denial. In his restraint, he broadcasts strength. When you choose to speak well of someone, especially in their absence, you do something increasingly rare and powerfully magnetic. You reveal emotional maturity and inner confidence. It is easy to tear down. It takes integrity to lift someone up without needing to. Imagine sitting at lunch when a colleague becomes the target of casual mockery. Someone scoffs, "That guy never hits his deadlines." You, without defensiveness or drama, respond, "True, he's still working on time management, but he also saved our team $1 million mistake last quarter with one observation." That brief defense transforms the entire tone. In that single moment, you establish fairness, discernment, and depth. Listeners notice. They sense that if you speak that way about others when they're not present, you will likely do the same for them. That quiet reliability fosters trust, and trust compounds like interest over time. Psychologists have a name for this ripple effect: spontaneous trait transference. It means that the traits you describe in others are subconsciously attributed to you. Compliment someone's generosity, and you begin to seem generous. Admire another's courage, and you appear brave. When you habitually frame people in a positive light, you start to glow in that light as well. It doesn't just influence how others see you, it rewires how you see the world. Studies in neuroscience reveal that vocalizing appreciation activates regions in the brain linked to satisfaction, contentment, and emotional regulation. The act of speaking well creates well-being. And the effects don't stop at internal benefit. The face responds too. Grateful and affirming language softens micro-expressions, those tiny facial movements that women, in particular, are evolutionarily wired to detect. Your eyes, your mouth, your tone shift subtly. Over time, you are perceived as a source of lightness and strength. In social ecosystems, this makes you a magnet. Energy, opportunity, and goodwill naturally flow toward those who energize rather than deplete. You get more introductions, more recommendations, more invitations. Not because you demanded them, but because people instinctively want your presence around them. In romantic relationships, this quality of speech speaks volumes. When you refrain from bad-mouthing an ex, it signals maturity and security. Your past doesn't need demolition to justify your present. That calm confidence reads as high-value stability. It suggests you don't seek validation through blame. And that's a rare kind of emotional independence, quietly irresistible. Even when criticism is necessary, there is a way to deliver it with purpose. The Stoic doesn't sugarcoat, but they refine. He's underperforming now, you might say, but I think with the right mentorship, his precision could double. That's more than tact, it's a habit of constructive truth-telling. It shows leadership. The Stoics called this euphemia, disciplined, harmonious speech that aligns with virtue and serves the greater good. They filtered their words through three gates. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? You can make that your filter, too. Practice it daily. At first, it might feel like work. You'll catch yourself mid-sentence, mid-thought. But eventually, it becomes instinct. Your speech, like a compass, will align naturally with your values. And something else will shift, too. You'll notice others leaning in. Potential partners, new friends, mentors, employers, they will feel drawn to you without always knowing why. Respect for the absent becomes a silent guarantee that respect for the present is safe. That kind of consistency builds attraction, loyalty, and love. And in a world too quick to criticize, you become the rare presence that heals simply by how you speak. Chapter 6. Humility. Arrogance repels by announcing it has nothing left to learn, that its journey is complete. Humility, on the other hand, magnetizes. It emits the quiet promise of someone still evolving. In a world obsessed with performance and image, true humility stands out like a lighthouse in a fog of ego. Stoic humility isn't about diminishing yourself or pretending to be less than you are. It's about practicing accurate self-assessment for an honest inventory of strengths, limitations, and blind spots. It begins with the courage to admit ignorance and, through sustained effort, ends in mastery and quiet confidence. In conversation, humility speaks volumes in small phrases. I haven't read that yet, tell me more. That sentence is a door opener. It turns monologue into dialogue, signaling not just curiosity but a rare kind of groundedness, confidence that doesn't fear being seen as incomplete. That vulnerability is strength. Most people armor up with defensiveness. Humility drops the shield and says, I'm still learning. And that, paradoxically, makes others trust and respect you more. When you own your mistakes, whether it's missing a deadline at work or forgetting an important anniversary, you offer no excuses. You take full responsibility. That moment, when handled right, can flip resentment into admiration. Why? Because accountability is scarce in a culture of finger-pointing and deflection. And scarcity, as any economist will tell you, increases value. Owning your failure with composure shows maturity, and maturity is magnetic. Humility also fuels growth. When you actively seek feedback instead of avoiding it, you dramatically accelerate the learning curve. You absorb skills faster, refine judgment quicker, and reinforce your position through consistent, visible improvement. It's not about chasing perfection, it's about continuous upgrade. Think of Marcus Aurelius, journaling night after night. He wasn't doing it to posture. He was dissecting his own impulses, where anger got the better of him, where he lacked patience, where pride clouded reason. That nightly forensic honesty didn't just help him improve, it helped him lead. It's part of what forged one of the most respected emperors in history. 2,000 years later, his humility still electrifies anyone who reads his meditations. And humility doesn't just manifest in words, it shows in posture, in the unspoken. You lean forward when others speak. You hold eye contact without dominance, let your shoulders drop instead of squaring up. Your body signals openness rather than rigidity. Research from Harvard's negotiation project reveals that receptive posture directly increases levels of trust and agreement. People can feel when they're being heard without judgment. And they respond by letting their guard down, too. Humility also protects you from the poison of performative confidence, the kind endlessly fed through social media highlight reels. In a landscape flooded with curated triumphs and overcompensating bravado, humility is revolutionary. Real-world observers, colleagues, friends, potential partners notice the difference. You celebrate team victories, give credit to mentors, and share hard-earned lessons without dramatizing them. You don't perform success, you embody it. This behavior sends a clear signal. You're not here to compete with the people around you, you're here to elevate them. That's attractive in every sphere of life. In business, investors and high-level collaborators gravitate toward leaders who admit their blind spots and bring in specialists smarter than themselves. That's not weakness, it's strategic intelligence. Romantically, humility turns relationships into rich journeys. When a man can say, "Teach me," he invites not just connection but adventure. He creates space for growth on both sides. And that's when intimacy becomes something far more powerful than physical, it becomes transformational. Humility is also a direct antidote to the ego's subtle sabotage. Ego wants to defend itself. It clings to jealousy, doubles down on blame, and turns mistakes into shame spirals. Humility clears all that clutter. It frees up cognitive bandwidth for creativity, for empathy, for connection. And make no mistake, humility doesn't cancel strength. It refines it. No one doubts your backbone when you can calmly acknowledge failure, make it right, and move forward without fanfare. That kind of strength is rare because it's real. The Stoics called this harmony between confidence and modesty a rite, virtue in action, excellence in character. And it's not a quality you're born with, it's one you build. You cultivate it daily by inviting critique instead of avoiding it, by practicing gratitude instead of entitlement, and by constantly reminding yourself that beneath every title, every trophy, every polished exterior, lies the same human fragility and the same inevitable mortality. That awareness doesn't make you smaller, it makes you wiser. It keeps arrogance in check and radiates the calm authority of someone who has nothing to prove because they've already proven it to themselves. And that is what makes humility so quietly, powerfully irresistible. Chapter 7, Stoic Composure, Unshakable Serenity. While lesser men react, the Stoic responds. And in that response lies the ultimate proof of attraction, not desperation, not flash, not ego, but control. Deep, grounded, undeniable control. In a world spinning on chaos, where most people break at the first hint of pressure, the man who stands still becomes a force of nature. Composure is a signal. It whispers strength in a language only the emotionally attuned can hear. And here's the truth most men never realize. When things fall apart, when the deal slips through your fingers, when she tests your boundaries, when plans unravel and the air turns cold, that's when you're truly being watched. That's when attraction either deepens or dies. Picture a crowded subway slamming to an emergency stop. Lights flicker. Fear erupts. Everyone's on edge. Now focus on one man, silent, upright, scanning calmly for those who might fall. No shouting. No panic. Just deliberate movement. His stillness cuts through the noise like a razor through silk. That man? He owns the moment. Because when everything around you is shaking, the one who doesn't tremble becomes the anchor everyone clings to. That's not metaphor. That's hardwired biology. Women, humans, are drawn to composure because it screams one thing: capability. And capability, at its core, is raw, primal attractiveness. So how do you build it? You don't fake it. You forge it. The Stoics had a method, and it's as brutal as it is effective: negative visualization. Every morning, they imagined the worst. Not to invite tragedy, but to disarm it. They rehearsed exile, disease, betrayal, and death, not because they were morbid, but because they knew the enemy wasn't pain. The enemy was surprise. That which you've already imagined cannot control you. You've stripped its power in advance. You must do the same. Imagine losing your job. Imagine your woman leaving. Imagine public humiliation, bankruptcy, even death. Not to wallow, but to train your nervous system. When those moments eventually come, and they will, you'll already have a response, not a panic. Your heart rate won't spike. Your voice won't crack. That's not denial. That's preparation. It's the difference between a soldier who's seen combat in his mind and one who's never left the safety of theory. But that's just the mental drill. Now add controlled exposure, the physical rituals of resilience. Cold showers, fasting, sparring, speaking to a room full of strangers, making the difficult phone call. Micro-stressors that teach your body how to remain calm in discomfort. Each one is a tiny rebellion against fragility. Every completed trial tells your brain, I can survive this. I can handle more. This is how you rewire your amygdala, the fear center of your brain. Most men live in a chronic state of emotional hijacking. But you're building immunity. Each stressor completed without panic shrinks the reactive loop. Over time, your system recalibrates. You don't just seem calm. You are calm. Your voice slows. Your pupils stay steady. Your gestures are minimal but decisive. And people notice. In relationships, this composure is a pillar. It builds trust faster than compliments, gifts, or promises ever could. Why? Because she knows, without you saying a word, that when the storm hits, you won't collapse. When money's tight, when illness strikes, when family issues explode, you are the constant. That's safety. And safety is attractive. Not in a needy, codependent way, but in a primal, anchoring way. You become the eye in the hurricane, and everything orbits around your steadiness. Even in low-stakes settings, business, social, romantic, composure flips power dynamics. In negotiation, your pause makes the other party second guess. You speak less, but your silence carries more weight than their words. In group conversations, awkward silences don't bother you, they energize you. Because stillness doesn't scare you. You've made peace with discomfort. You don't need to fill silence. You own it. And women pick up on this immediately. Stoics like Epictetus practiced insults. Not to become cruel, but to inoculate themselves against humiliation. Someone mocks you? Good. Now you practice detachment. You write down the insult. Analyze it. Reduce it to absurdity. Was it even true? Did it really matter? Now you're free. No external verdict defines you. No mood swings from others infect your peace. That level of self-possession makes you nearly untouchable. You no longer seek validation because you've already approved of yourself internally. And paradoxically, that's when others chase you. You become the lighthouse. Steady. Solid. Lit from within. Not chasing the ships, but guiding them through the fog. It's here that attraction transcends looks or clever lines. It's no longer about seduction. It's about presence. A quiet, grounded power that makes others lean in without understanding why. You walk into a room and people straighten their backs. Conversations slow. Eyes track you are not because you're loud, but because you carry weight. This is the rarest form of charisma. And it isn't learned through books, courses, or flashy techniques. It's built, slowly, with scars and drills and earned control. And most men will never taste it. They'll react. They'll panic. They'll crumble at the first sign of resistance. But you won't. Because now you know. And once you know, there's no going back. You are the man who transforms pressure into poise. You are the man who stands still when the world burns. You are the 1%. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And most men, sadly, imagine themselves as unattractive, unworthy, or invisible, when in truth, they're just missing the habits that forge real presence. What you've just heard isn't theory. It's transformation. These 7 habits, curiosity, hobbies, purpose, genuine praise, speaking positively, humility, and all the rest, they're not flashy. They're not loud. But they're lethal when practiced consistently. Because attraction, real, deep, lasting attraction, isn't built through looks or money or charm. It's built through discipline, through character, through mastering the self the way the Stoics did. And when you commit to these habits, when you embody them daily, women will notice. But more importantly, you'll notice. You'll walk differently, speak differently, think differently. So here's your call, don't just consume this. Live it. Try just one of these habits today, then another tomorrow, and watch how the world responds to the man you're becoming. Now, if this episode gave you clarity, inspiration, or just a serious wake-up call, then don't keep it to yourself. Like the video. Subscribe so you never miss what others overlook. Share your story in the comments. What habit hit you the hardest? What are you going to change starting now? And finally, send this to a brother, a friend, someone you know who's still asleep, still stuck, still lost in the noise. This might be the thing that wakes him up. Remember, you don't need to chase. You need to embody. You don't need to impress. You need to become. And once you do, everything changes. See you in the next one.